Hi, and welcome back to the layout. Today we're going to be taking a look at coal operations on the Asheville District, and specifically how we unload our live coal loads with an operational rotary dumper. In the previous two videos, we looked at how we load the live coal loads with an operational flood loader. Then we looked at how we got the heavy train up a steep 2.6% grade with helper locomotives all the way to the top of the mountain at Grovestone. With the train successfully up the mountain and the helpers returning to Asheville, it's a short trip down the hill to the power plant at Old Fort. Here, the train is in full dynamic brakes as it descends the hill towards Old Fort and the yard, which is shared by both the paper mill and the power plant which receives the coal. As the head end comes across Main Street in Old Fort, the engineer is going to begin slowing the train to bring it to a gradual stop in the yard. With the live coal loads does come some unique and interesting operational challenges because the train is so heavy and you don't want to have to worry about spilling the coal. Here, each coal car weighs about 6.5 ounces. Multiply that by the 40 cars which are in this train, and it weighs just shy of 16.5 pounds. So it's an incredibly heavy train on level track. Add in curvature and gradients like we have here on the layout, and you have to be very careful and bring this train to a gradual stop or a gradual start whenever you're operating it. So those are just a few things to keep in mind when operating the coal train on the layout. As the coal train pulls into the yard, it's going to pull through on the main line. In the background of this scene to the right is the paper mill, and farther back to the left, you can see the rotary dumper in the building that's illuminated. In the two yard tracks, you can see the paper mill local with the 4 SD40-2s tied down in the yard. That's P31, and we'll take a look at its operations on another day. Since it's tied down in the yard, it's going to make for a little bit more interesting operation since there's less storage today as this coal train arrives. And to the left of the arriving coal train is P59. That's the train symbol for the yard power today. And as the train arrives, they're going to be firing up their engines to work in conjunction with the head end to unload this coal train. As you can see, 40 cars is a long train, and it actually doesn't entirely fit into the yard at Old Fort. So once the tail end of the coal train clears the west end of the yard, which you're looking at now, and comes to a stop, the yard power is going to pull out onto the main line, couple up to the tail of the coal train, and then begin unloading the coal train in cuts of cars from that end. The yard power has taken the first cut of 14 cars off of the tail end and is currently reversing through the yard on the runaround towards the rotary dumper. I'll explain why 14 cars in just a minute. Meanwhile, the head end is reversing the rest of the train back through the yard on the main line to position it for the next cut and to clear up the east end. This is a completely scratch-built feature on the layout, which was designed by both my dad and a good friend of ours, Grayson Moore. My dad did all the scratch building and physical building of the model. Meanwhile, Grayson completely designed the software to make this thing operate. When we designed this rotary dumper, we wanted it to be able to work with any type of coal car regardless of if it has rotary couplers or not. So we designed a lift track to uncouple each car. It might not be the most prototypical, but it definitely works well, and because the track is on a decline, the car automatically rolls into the dumper via gravity to position it for the dump. While the car dumps, the next car can then be positioned on the lift track to uncouple it and speed up the process. The rotary dumper can unload 7 cars at a time before the empties need to be pulled out of the storage track and positioned out of the way in order to make room for the next 7 cars. As you can see, the coal pile to the left is where the coal is stored until the power plants need it. There's also a little bit of reserve there, just like in real life. For some reason, in case a train couldn't make it to the power plant, there's an excess of coal there that can be used to burn for the power plant if needed if the train doesn't arrive on time. The 7 empty cars are then positioned on the runaround track just beyond the entrance to the spur going into the rotary dumper. Once the cut of 7 empties has been pulled from the rotary dumper and positioned onto the runaround track for storage, the next cut of 7 loaded cars can be positioned back into the rotary dumper for unloading. We're actually on the upper level of the layout, and the coal dumps into a hopper, which is located directly above the flood loader, which is on the lower level of the layout. So this provides a continuous cycle without having to move the coal around once it's dumped. The rotary dumper itself has several features to make the operation go smoothly. First, the brake applies, which stops the car in the correct location. It's then clamped to hold it in place while it dumps, and a motor then rotates the car and then dumps the coal. It holds there for a second to make sure that everything's unloaded and then returns to the home position. The brake releases, the clamp releases, and the car rolls out and couples up to the rest of the cars in the storage track. Also built into this rotary dumper are a few infrared sensors. They function to make sure that the car is both correctly positioned during a dump sequence and to make sure that it's fully cleared the rotary dumper before a new sequence is initiated. The best part about this entire system is that it all functions with one push of a button. As soon as the loaded coal car is positioned on the lift track, you can push the button and the automation takes over from there. From there, it lifts the track and engages the brake so that the car rolls in. Then it clamps the car and dumps it. Meanwhile, the lift track returns to the home position so that you can spot the next car for unloading. Once the indicator light gives you the all clear and all the sensors are happy and the rotary dumper resets, you can push the button again and repeat the cycle. While the yard crew is unloading the coal train, the head-end power is going to cut off and proceed to the switch at the east end of the yard. There, they're going to reverse into the yard on the runaround track and tie the power down until it's needed for the outbound trip to take the empties back to Asheville. It takes a long time to unload all 40 cars, just like the prototype, but it definitely makes for some fun, unique, and interesting operations here on the layout. Once the entire coal train has been unloaded, the yard crew is then going to spot it into the yard and clear the main line for all through movements. Once they're done, they'll tie the power down, and when an outbound crew is ready, the empty coal train will return to Asheville, but we'll save that for the next video. Until then, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time.